Coming up today, as French President Francois Hollande drums up more support for France's war against ISIS, the arrival of a French aircraft carrier intensifies France's bombing campaign against the group's targets in the Middle East. Thousands of people from all walks of life come to offer their condolences following the death of former President Kim Jong-sam. Plus, Korea selects the 47 authors who will compile the nation's new state-issued history textbooks for secondary school students. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello to our viewers around the world. It's 6 a.m. on Tuesday, November 24th here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broome. And we start with the latest on the fight against international terrorism. French President Francois Hollande met with British Prime Minister David Cameron in Paris on Monday to ask how Britain plans to help France defeat the group that calls itself Islamic State. It was Cameron's first visit since the murderous attacks in Paris a week and a half ago. The British leader must first seek approval from Parliament to join countries already bombing ISIS in Syria. Britain has already been bombing ISIS targets in Iraq. Right now, Hollande's gathering as much international support as he can.
We will intensify our strikes and choose targets that inflict the maximum possible damage on this terrorist army.
He offered France the use of a British airbase in Cyprus and additional help with air-to-air refuelling. Hollande will travel to Washington and Moscow this week to appeal for greater support in France's war against ISIS. Now, French aircraft carrier Charles de Gaulle, which arrived in the Mediterranean over the weekend, began operations against ISIS on Monday. The French military says jets hit 2 ISIS targets in Iraq. Now, the presence of 26 military jets aboard the Charles de Gaulle triples French forces in the region. The Belgian capital of Brussels will remain on maximum security alert for a third straight day on Tuesday. Belgium's Prime Minister Charles Michel confirmed on Monday that schools and the city's metro system will remain shut until Wednesday. The extension comes as Belgian prosecutors charged a 4th individual with terrorism offences related to the attacks in Paris. The unnamed man was one of 16 people arrested in raids across Brussels on Sunday. The rest were released on Monday without charge. The chief target of the police raid, Salah Abdeslam, a participant in the Paris terrorist attacks, is still on the run. Now, the Korean government has issued a travel alert for Brussels as the city remains on lockdown against terrorist threats. It's a yellow alert suggesting Korean nationals avoid visiting the Belgian capital. Seoul's foreign ministry has also issued a blue alert for the rest of Belgium, advising travellers to be on their guard. Now, Korea's travel warning system consists of 4 colours: blue, yellow, red and black. Black being the most severe, indicating a complete travel ban. In an additional statement, the government asked Koreans with plans to visit Brussels to reconsider their trips. The Foreign Ministry also raised the travel alert for Bamako, Mali, to red, a request that all Koreans evacuate the city. The rest of Mali is also under a red alert due to terrorist activity. Now, back here in Korea, several thousand people, including a great many high-profile political figures, have visited a hospital in Seoul to pay their respects following the death over the weekend of former President Kim Jong-sam. President Park Geun-hye offered her condolences on Monday to the bereaved family members. A state funeral will be held for Kim on Thursday. Shin Se-min reports.
Mourners have flocked to Seoul National University Hospital, sometimes waiting in long lines to lay a flower, light incense, and pay final tribute to late former President Kim Jong-sam. Dressed in black, President Park Geun-hye stopped by to pay tribute to Kim and offer condolences to his bereaved family. That was just a couple of hours after she returned from a three-nation diplomacy trip early Monday morning. High-profile figures in political and business circles also continue to pay their respects.
He made a huge mark in Korea's democratization. It strikes me that he was a great mountain, just like he was sometimes called.
Lee Hee-ho, the widow of former late President Kim Dae-jung, also came to pay her condolences. U.S. Ambassador to Korea Mark Lippert and business figures, including LG Chairman Koo Bon-moo and Samsung Electronics Vice Chair Lee Jae-yong, also paid their respects. Nationwide, thousands of citizens visited altars, including a main one at the National Assembly. For the bereaved family of the late Kim, it was an especially emotional day. Earlier, a casketing service was held with some 40 family members present. Following that, specific plans for the funeral was made. Now, Kim will be the first former president to be given a public funeral ceremony since the State Funeral Act was revised last November. Unlike others, this state funeral will last for 5 days, and everything from selecting the funeral parlor to supervising the burial ceremonies will be organized by the National State Funeral Committee, headed by the Prime Minister Hwang Kyo-an. When all is over, Kim will be laid to rest at Seoul National Cemetery in the Dongjakgu district. 신세민, Arirang News.
The final list of authors who will help compile state-issued history textbooks for middle and high school students has been determined. The National Institute of Korean History said Monday that a total of 47 authors were picked. 26 will be tasked with putting the middle school textbook together. 21 were selected for the high school version. The Institute added that 17 were selected through a public contest. The other 30 were invited by the government, including renowned scholars and experts in politics, economics and the Constitution. While the number of authors has been released, their names have not. Civic groups are demanding the names be disclosed, saying they have the right to be informed about the issue. The Institute plans to announce detailed guidelines on the textbook compilation next Monday. Korea's rival parties are set to meet again to try and reach a compromise on pending issues ahead of the National Assembly's regular session that is slated for Thursday. 3 representatives from the ruling Saenuri Party and the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy, including their floor leaders, will meet this Tuesday afternoon to try and coordinate on pending bills and the time schedule for the session. It remains unclear whether they will be able to proceed with the session, as the MPAD has hinted that it will boycott the move after the two parties on Monday failed to agree on the so-called Nuri free childcare program. The ruling party maintains that local education offices must foot the bill for the program, while the MPAD is demanding the state cover the funding. Other pending bills, including labour reform and economy-related bills, being pushed by the ruling party, and bills on economic democratisation led by the main opposition bloc. Now, South Korea marked a solemn anniversary on Monday. 5 years ago to the day, North Korea unleashed an artillery attack on the south border island of Yeonpyeong-do, killing 4 and injuring a great many others. Our Kim Hyun-bin reports on a special ceremony held to commemorate the day.
On a quiet afternoon on November 23, 2010, North Korea launched its most deadly attack on South Korean territory since the end of the Korean War. Hundreds of artillery rounds bombarded the western border island of Yeonpyeong, killing 2 civilians, 2 Marines, and wounding many more. Hundreds of civilians were forced to evacuate. To commemorate that day, a ceremony was held on Monday at the War Memorial of Korea in the heart of Seoul. Hosted by the Ministry of Patriots and Veteran Affairs, over 3,000 distinguished guests, including Prime Minister Hwang Kyo-an and Defense Minister Han Min-gu, attended. Hwang paid tribute to the fallen soldiers and emphasized the importance of bringing peace to the Korean peninsula.
All the provocations from Pyongyang in the past were painful lessons for us. From that experience, we should work to reach true peace on the peninsula. To do so, the most important thing is to overcome the 70-year-long separation between the two Koreas.
President Park Geun-hye, who had just returned from summits overseas, was unable to attend, but a pre-recorded commemorative video speech from her was shared, stressing the importance of being ready for any type of threat from the north.
앞으로도 우리 군은 완벽한 군사 대비 태세를 확립하여 어떤 위협과 도발에도 흔들림 없이 대처해 주기를 바랍니다.
South Korean military says if an incident like this happens again, it will immediately retaliate and destroy the origin of attack with more than 3 times the force used by the North. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Now, a South Korean Navy training group is visiting New York City for the first time. The trip marks the 70th anniversary of Korea's independence from Japanese colonial rule. Our Gonsoa has this report.
The Gangnam-chan destroyer and the support ship Taechung are on a 4-day visit to Manhattan with around 630 sailors, including some 140 cadets. While this is their second visit to New York, it's the first to the Manhattan port for the South Korean Navy's Cruise Training Task Group since the country's Navy was born 7 decades ago.
Traveling to various countries, experiencing their culture and sharing thoughts helps us in becoming global leaders.
The trip marks the 70th anniversary of Korea's liberation from Japan's colonial rule. Departing last August, the group is visiting 15 countries in gratitude of their participation in the Korean War. The United States is their 13th port of call.
Through the visit to our number one ally, we want to contribute in enhancing our bilateral relationship and strengthen our bond.
The sailors who showed off their talents during an on-board ceremony were warmly greeted by local officials and residents.
This is amazing. I've never seen anything like this before. They're all so talented.
I reaffirm the pride towards my country, and I hope for a firmer South Korea-US alliance.
While there, the crew will visit the New York Korean War Veterans Memorial and the United Nations headquarters. They depart for their next destination, Colombia, on Wednesday. Kwon-soa, Arirang News.
Now, a US military helicopter has crashed in South Korea, killing the pilot and the other occupant. Authorities say the Apache helicopter went down Monday evening in Wonju, Gangwon-do province. The helicopter belongs to the US 2nd Infantry Division. Police say it caught fire after it crashed, but no one else was hurt and no property was damaged. Authorities suspect the helicopter hit a high-voltage line or a steel tower, as the line was among the wreckage and the upper part of the tower was damaged. The exact cause, however, of the crash is still being investigated. Now, a new US study demonstrates the importance of a good night's sleep. It shows that one night of sleep deprivation could harm the body as much as a very high-fat diet could. Park Se-young has the details.
Getting enough sleep at night is just as important as diet and exercise in keeping healthy. That's according to U.S. researchers who found that losing one night's sleep may reduce insulin sensitivity. In fact, one night without sleep compares to 6 months on a high-fat diet. Using a canine model, the researchers found that one night of sleep deprivation reduced a dog's insulin sensitivity by 33% compared to dogs that had a normal night's sleep. When the dogs were fed a high-fat diet for 6 months, their insulin sensitivity was reduced by 21%. And once the high-fat diet had caused insulin insensitivity, one night of sleep deprivation did not worsen the insulin sensitivity further.
Sleep deprivation causes a lack of melatonin in the body and releases more of the stress hormone cortisol. Cortisol counteracts insulin, contributing to insulin resistance.
When the body becomes less sensitive to insulin, it needs to produce more insulin to keep blood sugar levels stable. Experts say insulin insensitivity can lead to various metabolic disorders like obesity and diabetes, and this emphasizes the importance of sleep.
Sleep replenishes many of our hormones, so we have the optimal coping ability for the next day. Clearly distinguishing between night and day provides an important framework for sleeping.
While the right amount of sleep needed varies by age, the National Sleep Foundation in the U.S. suggests 7 to 9 hours is needed for adults. Park Se-young, Arirang News.
Well, that's all we have for now. I'm Mark Broome. Have a great rest of the day, and thank you as always for watching. Goodbye.